Cool. So we are recording now. So, everybody, this is Kerri Hartnett. She is a realtor in Astoria, Oregon, right?
Astoria and Portland, yes.
Astoria and Portland, Oregon. And she's also the national president for the Women's Council of Realtors. So it's a very big deal that she's here today. And I really want to thank her for being here. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
For those who don't know, I'm the president-elect for the Northern Colorado chapter of Women's Council of Realtors. So I think it's really, really cool. And I feel very honored to be part of Women's Council and have our Women's Council president also care about sustainability. So I think it's really, really cool that she's here today. So thank you, Kerri. If a lot of people that are here have not been in an Eco-Symposium before, so just a little what we do and what we're about and etiquette, that kind of stuff, feel free to jump in, ask questions. This is very conversational, very we just want everyone to take something away from today that they can either apply to their business or apply to their life and leave with some golden nuggets, So let's make this awesome for everybody involved. So feel free to participate, ask questions. And yeah, so Kerri, tell me a little bit about how you got into sustainability in general, and then also how that's kind of overlapped into real estate a little bit.
Okay, so I discovered right after high school that I was a hippie and that I liked trees. So you could call me a tree hugger in that regard. And, I just kind of followed down that path of just recycling and I lived in Idaho at the time. So it really wasn't that easy to recycle and compost. I remember I was so proud. I taught my parents, this is what you do, And so that's sort of how I got started into I just feel like we need to leave things better than the way we found them. I don't know where I picked up on it, but I think it was just the company that I kept, I guess, if you will, that the people that I was hanging out with, they cared about the environment. And so from there, I left Idaho. I moved to Oregon, and I moved here because I knew that they were a little bit more focused on the environment and protecting the land that we live on and preserving it, and making conscious choices about their consumption. So it was greener. It was literally greener, cleaner, and people were super friendly, and it was not this big, I had come from a small city, but I lived in a big city, and I was it was kind of a good mix. And so then I got into real estate. Before I got into real estate, I worked for a restaurant chain, local restaurant chain, McMenamins, and they are also big hippies, and they recycle everything. I mean, they do everything to recycle. So it really kind of got started in this, this makes sense. Why would we fill the land with things that we don't need to fill the land with, right? So when I got into real estate, funny enough, I was actually at a Women's Council auction, an event where they had a silent auction. And one of the auction items which I bid on, I think I got it for $75. It was a class for the Earth Advantage sustainability. It's something that not every state has, but it's essentially a green designation, but it's local. It's more of a local certification. They do have them in other parts of the country, but not everywhere. And so I bid on this class. It was a $350 class that I got for $75, and I took that class, and I was like, oh, this is eye-opening, and the building science and what you can do with retrofitting. I mean, they took us through tours of homes and really, and this was back in, I had to been 2009, maybe 8 or 9, right when the market was kind of tanking back then. So what do? I put myself right into the, let's get the skills that pay the bills. How are we going to actually, how am I going to separate myself and also fill the time, because there wasn't a lot of deals happening back then. So I took this class. I was in love. And then from there, I went to, YPN, Young Professionals Network, the NAR's YPN. They offered, meaning the green designation, offered YPNers the first 2 days of the green designation, this was when it was 3 days long, they offered it for free at one of our national conferences to get more people involved. And of course I took it, and I knew all the answers because I had just taken this other, recently taken this other course. And I was just, again, hooked. I loved it. I loved the people. I loved the thoughtfulness behind these teachings. And that's sort of who I am. And then from there, I just, honestly, I kind of haphazardly fell into it. It started with a sense of responsibility for leaving the earth better than the way I found, than what it was, right? The way I found it, I guess, is kind of weird, but better than making sure that, and I didn't even understand carbon footprint at that time. I just thought it was the right thing to do. And now I teach, and I've been, now I teach the green designation. I mean, it's one of our sustainability is a huge priority for us at Women's Council this year, not just in the sense of environmental sustainability, but I always start with, if we don't have this planet, if we don't sustain this planet, then we don't have to worry about people or profit, because there will be no people or profit, right? We'll all be, who knows where we'll be. So the sustainability to me is not, it is, because I think that, when people hear the word sustainability, I think sometimes there's a wall that goes up because they don't understand it. And so if you talk to them, if you speak to them in the sense that, like, I really want you to sustain your business. I want you to sustain, I want the organization to sustain its networks. I want you to sustain your health. I mean, first and foremost, right? And part of sustainability when it comes to your environment and the built environment, especially in real estate, and many of you on this call probably have this, maybe the same thought, is the health of the inside of our home. The indoor air quality is really important. And I mean, I talk to people that, allergies are up, asthma's up, like, there's just a lot of things that, and we spend so much time inside. Health is a really important thing to me, and it should be for everyone.
Yeah. It's interesting that you're bringing up all these things kind of meshing together, because these are conversations that we've been having recently. Of the word that keeps popping up a lot is resiliency. So it's kind of like living a resilient life, having a resilient business, having a resilient home, a resilient climate. And, things are getting a lot more extreme in every sense. And so being resilient, that's important. And then also the topic of wellness and how it kind of intertwines into sustainability, resiliency, and like it all goes together, because you do have to be sustainable in all aspects, because, if the planet's not here, nothing else matters.
Right.
If you're not alive because you're unhealthy, that nothing else matters. Like, it all matters, right? So I love that you kind of just brought up all that up, because it's conversations we've already been having. So what are you kind of doing in your business? I know you teach the green designation, which, if anyone on the call doesn't know, that's the NAR green designation that you can get to become a green realtor. And what else are you doing kind of in your business? Obviously, you've moved to an area that's more green friendly.
Oregon, yeah.
Yeah.
Because Portland is like Portland is like almost extreme about it, which you kind of can't be so extreme, because Portland, as in many areas, I know there's people on from LA and Colorado and all that stuff. You've got Portland is the big city in Oregon. And so it dictates what happens in the rest of the state. I live in Astoria, which is a very small community. And I wouldn't say that they're not like conscious about recycling and reusing and reducing and things like that, but they're not as extreme. They use different language around it. Oregon in general, I truly feel like Oregonians really truly care about the land, because we just have beautiful land. Not that Idaho doesn't have beautiful land. It's just different. They just have a different focus. What I'm doing in my business, yes, I moved to a different area. I do my best to try to be as paperless as possible, but I do really like to write notes and things like that. So that's a difficult one. But when I am, and I also know what works. And so when I'm writing notes or sending out postcards, I'm making sure that they're all on recycled and material and, like biodegradable and things like that, because let's face it, we can't do everything digitally. It just, I just do have some of those things that I haven't been able to cut that out yet. So in the past, and since I moved to Astoria, I'm kind of like this dual personality where I'm like, okay, am I serving Portland? Am I serving Astoria? Where am I building my business? So I've been in Astoria now for 4 years. And of course, part of that was the pandemic. So it was hard to like do certain things. But when I lived in Portland, and I'm working hard to establish this here as well, I would always do like a Earth Day type, not really celebration, but kind of like, we had a shred day. Well, we had one, like an Earth Day shred day, or an Earth Day, like bring all your paints and your clothes, like bring them all to us. And, it's spring cleaning anyway. So let's take advantage of that. Get you out here. We'll take care of disposing the right way, all of your hazardous materials, your paints, your batteries, your whatever, your clothes, your documents, we'll shred it. So I love doing that kind of thing because I love reverse pop buys. I think it's wonderful. And it's a great time to do it. So I always highlight that. When I moved out here, I adopted a highway, and while it didn't really take off that well, we did have an Earth Day weekend cleanup for the highway and things like that, so really trying to bring the community to get together around doing good for the community, really, because that's what it is. And I'm a hoarder these days because I'm like, I have all these light bulbs and batteries, and I'm like, I don't know what to do with them, and they are not going in the landfill. It's just not going to happen on my watch. And so, really kind of, I'm sure I'm not alone, right? I'm sure there's other people that I hope I'm not alone. I'm sure there's other people that have big old IKEA bags full of things to like recycle properly, and giving my community that space to like just bring it to. That's easy because people want to do the right thing. They just kind of get lost in their days.
Totally. And I love the like bringing people together and turning something you're passionate about into a way to generate more business too, because like when you're bringing people together like that, it's something that you're passionate about. You want to do it anyways, but it's also a way to like bring past clients to you, future clients to you, and you can have conversations with them instead of like, I like the reverse pot buy idea because personally, I don't love when people knock on my door. I really don't love when people just show up at my house.
I'm the same. That's not who I am. I'm like, if I don't want it to happen to me, I'm not going to do that to someone else. And so this is coming from contribution, offering value. I mean, a lot of times, like, it costs money to recycle light bulbs and paints and things like that. And people won't do it because, and I'm just like, I'll do it. I mean, that's a write-off for me. And when I've done it before, I've actually partnered up with other realtors that, so the cost isn't so much. And honestly, like, I always think of a pop by. I mean, I obviously would love everyone to come and drop off all the things so that we can do that. But it's not really, for me, it's not really about the actual pop by or the actual event. It's about all the information that you get out ahead of time. And then you're positioning yourself, or I'm positioning myself as that resource that, they can go to, like, oh gosh, okay, maybe I didn't make it to your event, but how do you recycle paint? That I just moved into a house and someone left all their paint and I don't want it. What do I do with that? So it kind of positions you as that source for that. So I wanted to kind of share too, it's not necessarily my business, but it helps. I'm, as you can probably imagine, I'm very involved with the National Association of Realtors and the Women's Council of Realtors, and the associations in general. And so for not my local here, because we don't even have a building here. I think it's a PO box. It's a very small association here. But in Portland, we don't own the building, but at the state of Oregon, we do own the building. And I am constantly bringing up, did you know that there's sustainability grants? Did you know that there's these grants that you can get for doing certain things to make the building less, to like reduce the carbon footprint of the building. And so that is like something that I'm really passionate about, because even in, also, by the way, there's a toolkit. I don't know if you're familiar with it, and I can't remember off the top of my head. Shelby, she was there. Maybe did she have to pop off?
She had to pop off, but she said she could pop back on from the car.
Okay, so there's a toolkit that if I could find, is there a way to like plop that into it looks like there is. I'm going to try to find it for you guys, but there is a toolkit on how to, it's really for your offices, if you've got offices or your associations, or, I mean, you can do it with your homes too, but there's a sustainability toolkit on NAR.realtor, and it's really quite cool, actually. Let's see if I can find it and drop it in here. Sustainability. Well, it says for your associations. So if you guys are involved in your associations, okay, now how do I get back to you? There we are. But this is like just good information. Like if you are a part of an association and you have a sustainability committee, or you want to get a committee off the ground, I feel like it could work in your offices too. But there's some resources through NAR. And then another one is, and again, this is more so for your associations, but where is it? Sustainability grants. There's money available for you to bring in a green designation course, or high level speakers on that type subject, or even just in yeah, I can't find it. Sorry. I'll find it at some point and shoot it over to you, Katie. But there's just so many resources out there, and I think a lot of times, even in my association, which we're in Portland, I'm like, hey, did you know about this? They're like, no. And I'm like, what? How did you not know about this? You need to look into this, and how you can make your office just reduce the carbon footprint of your office, and sort of lead the way for your members. Because we have such an opportunity to really help the climate change effort. What do you call it?
We're the Climate Action Network.
Climate Action Network. We have so many, we're positioned well as realtors to be able to really have a great effect on carbon footprints and reducing that. And it's little things like weather strip your door. That's nothing, like insulate something that needs it. There's very, and then also like where there's money that might be utilized for some of these things, whether they're grants or rebates, or I know the Inflation Reduction Act has money that once it's released, it should be a really, 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 it should be a no-brainer but most people don't understand it. And so I'm glad to hear you guys are having these conversations.
Yeah. One of our members is heavily involved with Incentifind. Have you ever heard of that?
I don't know, but I know there's a ton of incentives.
Yeah. So it's a website called Incentifind, and you can pay to have the website basically find all of the incentives, grants, rebates, all the things for either your home, your client's home, or a commercial building as well. And you basically, I don't remember what the cost is. Keith, do you remember what the cost is?
It's part of the the USGBC.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's all right.
Yeah, I think it's 450.
That's pretty good, though.
You can do a more extensive one too, where they actually work to get the money for you.
Yeah.
But that's the basic, I think.
That's awesome. That's great.
Yep. And we're EXP is building a green division. So like, you've got your farm and ranch division, you got your luxury division. EXP is working on building a green one. I'm on the agent advisory council for it. And so we're trying to talk with negotiations to try and get partnerships with Incentifind and other businesses, organizations like that so our agents that have that designation can get a discount on that, and maybe have that as like a closing gift or something like that for your clients that are interested in this. And then that way they don't have to do the legwork to try and find all these,
Yeah.
incentives and rebates, because it's a lot. And it's like, you don't even know where to look. I had an agent ask me last week, he's like, my client, because I helped do a showing for him when he was out of town. And, I told him, I was like, well, the house needs a lot of work, but like, if your client's willing to go for that, then okay. And so he reached out to me afterwards and he was like, where do I find all these incentives you're always talking about for this client to help, do these renovations on this house that he wants to do? And I was like, well, you can go here and 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 you can go here. Like, and, so it was like a lot of legwork. And he's like, oh, okay. So, agents are lazy, clients are
savvy,
and
but they're curious. They are so curious. And that's the thing. Thank you for that. That is awesome. I mean,
I was way off on pricing. That was big. That was pricing for us for a large scale number of bids. You can get a quick bid for $10 now.
Oh yeah.
It used to be $25.
And there are, if I had my green designation stuff, the last time every time I teach the green designation course, I always try to go out there and find all the newest, latest information, because this stuff changes all the time. There are some wonderful tools out there that again, Katie, I'll send to you and maybe you can share with the group, as I'll go back through my notes and look at those. But there's some wonderful, wonderful resources out there that, again, people just don't know what they don't know.
Exactly. And people are curious. And I can't remember the stats. Maybe Keith remembers it exactly, but the NAR sustainability stats that came out, the discrepancy between agents thinking that the clients care and the clients actually caring, those numbers were vastly different.
Yeah.
Keith, do you remember what the number was on that by chance? You're on mute still. Or Kerri, do you remember?
No, but it is pretty staggering. And even at the Sustainability Summit earlier I guess it was last month, Dr. Jessica Lautz, which is one of our chief research, she's awesome. She talked about a decline in it was not necessarily a decline in desire for consumers to want green, more sustainable, more green features in their home, but really more about the lack of inventory, that there just wasn't the inventory out there. And if they were going to get a house, that they were going to prioritize that over a house that was completely dialed, I understand, and we always talk about, and Keith, you mentioned Craig Foley, he talks about this too, or maybe it's him and Todd Shipman from Minneapolis, the total cost of ownership. It's not just about the monthly mortgage payment. It is about how much is your power? How much is your gas? How much is your water? What's your commute time? How much gas you have to spend if you don't, not everyone's got or will get an electric car. So what is the total cost of ownership? And that's where this incentivize, I really like that, where these incentives come in, because what we've got to figure out is it's expensive to own a home right now with interest rates high and housing prices extremely high. Where do you find the money to make sure that these homes can get better, sealed up better, and a better, more comfortable, more sustainable, more healthy environment? And whether it's incentives or some of this money from the Inflation Reduction Act, or what is it? Those are some of the conversations that I'd like to see, because especially first-time home buyers, and I think that it's the millennials and the Gen Zs that are really hyper focused on this, not because there's a real fear that this planet is literally on fire. Where are they going to get the money to make these changes that they so care? They really do care about, and it's a good thing to care about it. So those are conversations I'd love to see continue happen. And it's how do we get this money in the hands of the people that are going to actually make the change?
Yeah. And I think it's also in addition to talking about the sustainability part of it, bringing it back to the client that I was just talking about, that my friend had that I did the showing for. He's a first-time home buyer, and he's buying this house, and it's all that he can afford. And to be honest, it's still expensive, even if it's the first, it's still a lot, right? And it needed a lot of work, and the windows were single pane. And those of us in Colorado, single pane windows in the wintertime,
it's not going to work. Yeah, not going to work.
And so it's not even like trying to be more energy efficient at that point. It's trying to just be warm in the winter.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's like because we're always trying to, like, we care about sustainability, right? But like not everyone cares to the same level as we do. And so how do you bridge that gap between like, okay, we want to push the needle, but like we don't want to like go so extreme, like you were saying, that we scare people off either, right? Because there's like a happy medium there, like where we can still, make a difference without having to like shove it down people's throats, right?
Yeah.
And so like
you gotta speak in their language.
exactly. And so like the window conversation, that's an easy one because like who wants single pane windows? I don't think there's any sort of environment in the United States that likes single pane windows. I don't know.
Right. It's funny that
everyone can do.
You know, when I bought my first home, it was a fixer. There was a lot of work. It was what we could afford. It was where we wanted to be. It was what we could afford. We knew that what we were getting into. And the talk about the windows, right? They were single pane windows. They were aluminum. And what happens in Oregon is it doesn't really snow, but it will freeze rain. And so then you get the frozen, I'd get the frozen panes and then gross. It was nasty. And the difference between even the summers that they're getting hotter and hotter, let's face it, but even the summers back then, this was in 2002, it wasn't quite as hot. Once we changed out the windows, it literally made a 20-degree difference inside, both in the winter and the summer. So it was like, and also not only that, like I lived literally planes, trains, and automobiles all around me. Like I literally was in that movie and that's where I lived. When we got the windows, I couldn't hear it anymore. So like the quality of life changed for me. I fixed that house up until I sold it 17 years later, but the new owner now has solar panels and like, and she took it to a whole different level, which I couldn't do. And that's what it comes down to is like the majority of our housing stock, I assume it's like this where most people are, they're older homes. They're built before there was code. They're built before there was all this amazing building science. And now I live in a home that was built in 2006 and there's still things. I'm like, man, when these things go out, I am doing things differently because I didn't build the home. Someone, I moved in, 1976. That's what I was thinking, back in the 70s. So yeah, there's just that, but that's how we do it, right? One little bite at a time. How do you eat an elephant? You eat it one bite at a time. And if we can we can talk to them in that, like, people are usually all about like comfort and saving money. Mm-hmm. That's how we hit them, right? Because, and then if they don't hear the other message, that's fine. They're doing their part. We just got to kind of get them into like this. If you're comfortable, you're healthy, you're not spending so much money on heat or cooling because you've sealed things up a bit, right? I think that's probably the best conversation. And that's what I learned from my, when I took that initial class, that Earth Advantage class. It was like, you've got people of different levels. You've got like, I wouldn't even call myself an early adopter because I look at these people like Craig Foley's and Cynthia from Pearl, and I'm like, you guys are so smart. Like I was just a hippie, I just thought this is the right thing to do. And but it takes everyone, right? It takes these people who are so intricate in knowledge and just the people like myself that think it's the right thing to do. It takes all of us and different levels of, and I literally have been in rooms with people like Craig and John Rochert. And I mean, all the people, I don't know if you know these people, I'm just like in awe of why I'm in this room, and even in this room, I know there's some people in this room that know a lot more than I do about certain things. We don't have a lot of new construction. I don't deal with a lot of new construction. So most of my conversations are about how to improve that existing structure that's been there since either the 70s or earlier. My house was built in 1948 before the one that I live in now. So and it definitely didn't have insulation or weather stripping or any of it. It was definitely a labor of love.
Yeah. What kind of things, like, kind of changing topics now, but like, you know, in Colorado, we have wildfires, we've got flooding, we've got drought, we've got all those kinds of things. What kind of things do you deal with in Oregon related to the climate and how you're having to, you know, change your business for that, but also make sure homes are, you know, resilient towards that? What kind of things are you doing there?
So we also have wildfires, even in the Portland area where there, you know, where yes, we have a lot of water, but we certainly have some of them are unintended, you know, human caused, but yeah, we have some wildfires. We have, so let's see, in the winter time, like I said, it freezes rain, and we have a ton of trees here, and we've had just recently this past winter, we had some pretty severe winter weather where they were trees were falling on houses, on cars, on power lines because of the freezing rain that freezes and just gets really heavy. So that's like a winter thing that we have. We're surrounded by water, so a lot of flood plains and potential hazards. Here in Astoria, I literally live in a tsunami zone. And I choose to live here because it's beautiful. If I were to be in Portland, I could be engulfed by the volcano that erupts at some point because it's due. And it will erupt, and then I'll be screwed here at the coast. So I'll be sailing out to sea at that point. I'm sure of it. Also here in Astoria, we have, because it's surrounded by water. We're not an island, but we're basically a peninsula, and it's mostly hillside. If you're not on the hill, you're in the tsunami zone. But if you're not in the tsunami zone, you're in the slide zone. And we literally have had homes slide down the hill because they were built back in the 1900s, late 1800s, early 1900s, on land that is saturated with water year after year after year after year. So there is that. There's also, how do I change my business with that? That's like just talking about it. It's like, I don't know what you're going to do about this house, but eventually it probably will slide. There was a landslide that happened in between on the road in between getting back to Portland and Astoria. That scares me, you know, because those are, you're not gonna have any warnings. I don't know what to do to prevent them. Like, I feel really like this is where I get a little stuck. And I know that Realtor Relief Foundation is another foundation that was actually born after 9/11, in the wake of that, when they just wanted to, you know, do what they could to help. And, you know, it started with that type of a tragedy, and now it's moved on to natural disasters, and now we have more and more natural disasters. And I'm like, can we somehow utilize these funds to prevent it, to be proactive, not prevent it, but to be proactive instead of reactive? Those are the kind of ideas that swim around in my head, or those thoughts that swim around in my head. Like, how can we, because we can't prevent it at this point. We can slow it down. We can maybe prevent, I don't know what to do. I mean, I really don't, but there's definitely, like, yeah, there's extreme weather, and it's coming at us more and more rapidly than we've ever seen. And I'm not saying that the weather has never been extreme. I just feel like it's coming at us faster at this point.
For sure.
And more intense.
For sure. Yeah. And I totally agree. And I think it's something, and going back to the resiliency, I keep bringing that up, but it's like, you know, we can't reverse anything at this point. There's no going back. It's only like how to deal with it moving forward. Right. And so, like, in 2 weeks, our special guest is going to be it's the founder of Wildfire Partners. It's out of Boulder County in Colorado. But he speaks on a national level all the time about how to fire mitigate your home so that, you know, if a wildfire happens, you're less likely to have your house burned down because you sit around your property, that kind of stuff.
I'd love to be in on that if you would invite me, and if I can make it, I want to, because those are the kind of conversations that, like I said, like I'm so grateful that there is a foundation for helping people, but how can we be more proactive? How can we get this information out so that people are raking the leaves from around their home? It might be that simple, you know. or I don't know what it is, but I'd love to be a part of the conversation.
Totally. Yeah, no, absolutely. Everyone on this call is welcome to attend that one in a couple weeks. I think it'll be really good. I'm excited for him to be the guest. And also talk about the Realtor, Tyler, I'll get to you in a second. Talk about the Realtor Relief Foundation. And I'm going to plug Women's Council here for a second, but like, and just plug the NAR in general, because I know that NAR has a lot of, it's pretty controversial right now, I know. But like being part of Women's Council, going to Washington, D.C. when I was there, whatever, 2 months ago, whenever that was, I had no idea. I've been an agent for 7 years, and I had no idea we had the Realtor Relief Foundation or whatever it's called. I had no idea. And so being in, like caring about sustainability, caring about the world, I was like, oh, this is amazing. So I want to get more involved in that. And I learned about that because of Women's Council, because I got involved with Women's Council. And you just learn a lot more about what we are capable of being a part of as realtors and how impactful we can be. And this is part of it. So anyways, little plug there. But Tyler, did you have a question?
Yeah, there were two things. One is, I don't know if Kerri or Katie, either of you or anybody else in the call, had any luck talking to this specifically with people with very older homes. I know, Kerri, you'd mentioned something about this. I bought a 1912 home, and then I got a PhD in everything go wrong with an old house, from the asbestos to the fact that it was insulated with basically fire accelerant. I had sawdust around loose wires. And so in some of the green upgrades, I wasn't really doing because they were green. I was doing because the house just needed some updates. But then I realized that adding a Ring doorbell unlocked this huge electrical problem that then I had to, so a lot of the stuff I just realized I got loose wires laying in fire accelerant and things that green upgrades don't always need to be because they're green, just because of safety things. I don't know if you had any luck on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say, the opening Pandora's box in an old home, that's for sure. And it's not like you can go through, we say, at least I tell, because of experience, it's like room by room by room. I mean, especially in these older homes, and you don't really know, like, maybe you should start in the attic with your electrical, right? And what's going on up there. Because I don't, and Keith, maybe you know this number, but it's like it's like 50 to 60, maybe plus % of our housing stock is built before 1976. It's a large number. And even then, there was no code until like 1970 something. So there was kind of a free for all.
Yeah. Where do you I'm like, how do I phrase this question? But like, agents that might be listening right now, or, showing an older home this weekend or something like that. And then their client asks a question of like, well, what do you recommend for like this old wiring? Or what do you recommend for, this? Or, like, because none of us are the experts in anything, right? I mean, like, we're knowledgeable about some things. A lot of us know a little bit about a lot of things, but, none of us should be pretending to be experts in electrical or anything like that. But like, we also want to be knowledgeable enough to like guide them to the next step in making a wise purchase, but also making wise investments to upgrade their home, to retrofit their home, whatever. So like, where are you getting your, I guess, knowledge that you can then direct your clients to the next step? Does that make sense?
Yeah. I always like to be the source of the source is the way that I approach things. And so, a lot of times I'll send them a link that might be good for them, that might be a resource that I've learned throughout my, either green designation courses or whatever it is, just talking with people. If it's if it's anything that I am not an expert in, like, definitely refer them to an electrician that I trust 100%, because electrical it's not just it's a safety thing. It's one of those, you don't want to literally play with fire there. And so, but when it comes to, I just like to be the source of the source. And Portland has some really good sources. Oregon in general has some good sources. The Green Building Council has some great resources and things like that. But if it has something to do with like your major systems of the house, I'm constantly referring them to the professional, and not just one. Here's one that I like. Here's a few that maybe you like better, and maybe they do things differently. And trying to partner with, like, this was something that I probably need to get a little bit back into this too. And, contractors, like realtors, kind of ebb and flow in the business. So maybe you had some and then they're not there anymore, but trying to partner with people who have some of the same values as you, like that, that they're conscious about these things as well, and refer to those people so that they're not going to steer your clients in the wrong direction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've talked a lot about like growing our own little green communities where we're at of, some sort of networking group or something of, people that care, and we can all refer business to each other, et cetera.
And the Green Building Resource Council, if you have that in your area, this was one thing that I don't have it here in Astoria, and I try not to spend so much time in Portland because I really like being out here in this small little town. But joining the Green Resource, they actually have like networking events with we have a organization called Energy Trust of Oregon. I don't know if your areas have something similar, but it's a lot of trade allies. So contractors, appraisers, realtors, like people who are very focused on this subject, where you can go and have happy hours and do and actually network and build your ally list, if you will.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, I know like my area has it. It's the Sustainable Living Association, I think is probably the similar. And it's the other part of all of this is that like I actually just need to go get involved. Right. Find the time to go like set up a meeting. And that's probably a lot of what holds all of us back from anything. Like doing
and there's a lot going on, right? But like be in the rooms of these people, and that's where I'm like, when I get invited, I'm like, how did I land in this room? Like it's just nice to be able to absorb.
Raise your hand.
Exactly. I said yes. I did. Yeah. I raised my hand and I knew the answers to the questions that they were asking, and they thought I was smart. I just took this class. I know everything now.
I love that. One more thing that I was thinking about that I know a lot of us run into, and whether you care about sustainability or you don't, I think agents in general run into this because I see it in Facebook groups that are just, the general national Facebook groups for agents, solar panels. It is always such a conversation, and it's always it is often a negative conversation. I don't know if you've experienced that as well, but it's like the narrative around it is, you get them, but now you have to make this monthly payment if you're leasing because most people can't afford to pay for them outright. How are we having this conversation that makes it so it is a positive and you're, saving the environment, or you're saving money on your electrical bill, or your whatever. And then also, how do you market a home that has solar panels that maybe still has a lease that the seller can't afford to pay off or something like that? Like this comes up so often around me, at least. And I think it does for most people, that it shouldn't be quite so negative of a conversation, but it always is. And so I'm always trying to educate agents to be like, what is the proper conversation to have with your clients and with other agents, et cetera? What's your take on that?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's a really good question.
It's tough. It's really tough.
It is. And, there's some,
Is it me or is it you? Or
I think it's me. Because I don't know why, but my internet has just been.
Can you guys all hear me okay? Is it her or is it me? Or
I think it's me.
Okay.
Yeah, we got you fine, Katie. It was Kerri that cut out, I think.
Yeah, okay. My internet's being weird. Let me see if I can change over to my hot.
It's like, as long as it's not me and the whole call doesn't just like drop, then.
No, I'm sure it's me because for whatever reason, it's not doing what okay, well.
You're better now.
Okay. Hopefully hopefully I don't lose you.
Yeah.
I think so. Hopefully you can hear me. I think if we can really determine and help someone understand the total cost of ownership versus like, yeah, there might be a lease payment or if it's leased, but you're saving this much on like your power bill is X, and my understanding, I don't have solar panels. I've never dealt with them personally. But my understanding is they are paying you if it works right. That's my understanding. And so I think maybe like really having conversations about the total cost of ownership. Like it's not just the mortgage. It's not just the lease payment. It's like, what are you saving in utilities that you're trading off for this? And I'm not really sure how leases work. If it's like, because yeah, it is a thing. Like most people are probably leasing and not owning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. The total cost of ownership is a topic that we've never brought up on here before, but I really like that. I think that is, important to talk about with clients because everyone always just gets so hung up on the interest rates.
Yeah.
And like, that's all they're thinking about right now is interest rates.
Right.
They don't care about anything else.
Right.
It's literally they're hyper focused on interest rates. But if you can talk about other parts that go into owning a home financially, like that is a big one.
It's a big one. And I think that, like, I don't know where Colorado is on energy audits, but I know Portland and some of the surrounding communities have made it mandatory to get a energy audit prior to listing your property, which I've got feelings about that because to me, it doesn't do anything to help move the needle. It just tells you like, yeah, here's your energy score and this is what you can do. But when we were approached with that from like, that was a city council, a city planning decision, happened to be when I was president of my association. And it was like, hey, I'm all about green, but I don't see where this mandation, helps. But what the argument was the buyer should know what the total cost of ownership is, right? And so it's an HES, home energy score is what it's called. HES is the format that's used, and it gives you a score from 1 to 10, but then it gives you some ideas of like how you can improve. It's not a mandatory you have to improve, but it does give you some ideas like if you did this, then you'll see this, if you did that. So like it really does come down to that total cost of ownership. And that's why we see, like I've got someone right now who has lived in her townhouse for 11 years and it worked out really well for her because she was on the west side. When she worked on the west side, it worked out really well. Well, now she's commuting an hour each way because now she works on the east side. So she's moving to the east side. And so that's part of the total cost of ownership, the gas, the time, that time away from her cat, her space, and then also wanting to go hang out with her friends on the east side, but literally being an hour away. Like it helps people. It drives people's decisions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's the total. Yeah. I'm like, how else can I apply this? How else can I advertise that concept? Like, I love that.
Yeah.
Cool. So I guess we got a few more minutes here and let's plug Women's Council some more. What is Women's Council doing sustainability wise? I know you mentioned that in the beginning. What is Women's Council up to? And then if anyone wants to get involved with Women's Council, what do they do?
Sure. So Katie, you said you made it to, you've only been a member since December, so you weren't at our national meeting in Anaheim, but during my installation where it's a big formal party essentially where we all get installed as our officers, typically there will be a gift for the attendees. And so what I did I did have gifts because that's because people just gave me things to give out, and I was like, okay, that's cool. But I'm like no more gifts. I don't know what to do with them, you know? So what I did was for everyone who attended, I planted a tree. The National Forest Foundation planted a tree in their honor. So we had 550 in attendance. So we had 550 trees planted through the National Forest Foundation, which was actually an initiative that came straight from NAR 2022. I think it was 22, maybe 23, 22. National President Leslie Ruta Smith is also very into sustainability, and she partnered with the National Forest Foundation. We planted a tree, 1.6 million trees in honor of all of the National Association of Realtors members. And so I just kind of kept that going, right? And obviously a much smaller medium, if you will. But so that's, that was something that I did. We also have teams that I continue to donate $50 a month to the National Forest Foundation so that they can do what they do best. And we kind of have a women's council team that I'm sure there's people that are still a part of it. It's not necessarily like the front and center focus now. I would say right now, the Realtor Relief Foundation is a big thing for me because, again, as I talked about, it goes along with sustainability. And how can we somehow, I feel like that's going to be a committee that I sit on at some point, just because I feel like I need to know how we can be more proactive versus reactive. But right now we have a challenge going where, we have a goal to raise $10,000 through the end of the year. Hopefully, I think it was the month of June when we started it, but we will continue that fundraiser, if you will, to drive funds to the Realtor Relief Foundation and hopefully be able to have better conversations around how to be more proactive. We're talking about it, I'm on the Green Advisory Board for the designation. And so I know, and actually our CEO, Amanda Stinton, she was selected. We hired her last year, about a year ago. No, not quite, almost a year ago. But she came from the sustainability side of NAR. And I met her through my Green Advisory Board talks and just the green designation and stuff. So you better believe that this is going to be a theme that stays consistent, right? I mean, maybe it's not the leadership team driving it. And I will say what I don't, the hard thing about being in a role where it's just a year is that, the fear of things are going to change the next year, but the team has really committed to these priorities of sustainability, inclusion, and return on investment, because it does tie right back to our strategic plan, which is a 3-year plan. So, and there's still my voice will still be on the executive committee next year. So I will be making sure that we continue these efforts and have the conversations around sustainability and what that looks like, because the way that I talk to the language that I use there is we want to sustain for another 85 plus years, right? And so just kind of bringing that word back around as often as I possibly can, and kind of hitting people in different ways that I can hit them that they don't even know that I'm greenwashing them.
Well, also I think it's good because you are open about caring about sustainability, it attracted me, it attracted Shelby, and so more voices that are we kind of felt like we were on an island maybe. And then
right.
Now that we're building community, and I've never met Shelby in person. I didn't even meet her in Washington, D.C. Maybe I'll meet her in Chicago next month.
Yeah.
I don't know, but will she be in Chicago? Maybe. I don't know. I'll be there.
Some great people.
Yeah.
You'll meet your next best friends, that's for sure.
I know. Does she need a roomie? But it's bringing people together is my point, and that's what's cool. And so maybe you won't be the president next year, but your voice continues because now our voice is louder because you spoke up first, right? Yeah. So I think that's what's important with leadership as well. It's it continues. So,
and it was intentional for me to be a speaker at the Sustainability Summit. I really wanted, if I was going to be there, I wanted to be on the stage and showing that that our organization, that the president of our organization should be here. And then, you know, continuing on my journey, I hope to continue serving on the Sustainability Advisory Group at NAR, and, you know, maybe even in a leadership role there, so that I can continue bringing that information back, because I'm never leaving Women's Council. Like, Women's Council's in my blood. And I don't know if you knew this, but my mom is a past national president as well. And so I'm not going anywhere. Just because I won't be president next year doesn't mean I'll be gone.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I love that. I love that. Well, cool. Well, yeah, if anyone wants to join Women's Council, you can reach out to one of us. We can connect you with the right people. Open to men and women. I don't know if people know that. It's not for ladies. So there's that. And then as far as the Eco-Symposiums in the future, you all are always welcome to attend the Eco-Symposiums. They're every Wednesday at the same time. We have a different guest every week. They're open to agents from all brokerages, you know, all around. It's people that care about sustainability, bringing people together, having these conversations like this. Hopefully you took some nuggets away from today. Thank you, Kerri, for being here. This was amazing. You're always welcome back. Thank you. And next week, we don't have a speaker yet. I'm still trying to book somebody. If anyone has any ideas on anyone that wants to be a speaker next week, let me know. If we don't get one, it's just going to be open discussion. We just talk about whatever. Week after that is going to be the wildfire mitigation guy out of Boulder that I was talking about. That one's going to be a really good one. Yeah. And then I would love to get someone from the Realtor Relief. That's what I call Realtor Relief. Realtor Relief.
Yeah. You guys have an ambassador. Well, if you're the point person, I'll connect you with your ambassador for your region if you'd like, and then you can circle them in.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I think that'll be a great conversation as well. Well, cool. Well, awesome. Thanks for being here, everybody, and thank you, Kerri, for being our guest today. Amazing. This is obviously recorded. It's going to be put up on our YouTube channel. If you want to like refer back to something we talked about that you didn't write down or something, it'll be up there. And I hope everyone has a great day. Thanks for being here.
Yeah. Absolutely. Stay cool out there.
Cool. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye now. Yeah. Thank you. Great to see you guys.
Bye, everyone. Bye.